But we're not leaving anything Parve about the shir. We're going to come Halacha l'maisa, the sikkim of today's shir.
Just to review what we learned today about this time. First of all, we see how careful we have to be with Basa B'cholav, and I should have mentioned, it's interesting, the Yishalmi says that when the Baruch wanted to give the Torah to Klal Yisrael, the Malachim wanted it. So Baruch no, you can't get it because you ate Basa B'cholav. So the Stipler in Birchas Peretz, Parve asks, but if Avram cooked it, so he was over. And Teres, he didn't cook it, they ate it separately, it's only the Rabbanan. So one Teres, the Stipler says, he gave them separate, and they put in their mouths, and they burnt it, and that was the bishul, they were over the Deraisa. But Oiri says, you lose the Torah even for doing an Issa the Rabbanan. They take ate it Zeh, but even that's an Issa the Rabbanan, and you lose the Torah for that. So especially we're talking about today's Sugya, was a lot about Zehiras, but that's really why we have the Torah today, because of this Zehiras. But the kitzah, what we learned today is a nat bar nat, which means a doubly diluted tam, a noisim tam, bar noisim tam, a parva food cooked in a fleishik or milachik kapat, mi'ikad din retains its parva status. And that's why b'di'evet, if you added milk to this lakshin in the fleishik kapat, it's mutter b'di'evet. It's just a chatchila, we don't mix, and you don't make it to mix, for Sfardim a little more makel, but basically you don't mix a parva food that was cooked in a fleishik kapat with milachiks. If there's shamnunis, if there's mamoshis, so that's a whole different sugya. That's taka, you need bittel. But we're talking about just nat bar nat is basically mutter, it's just chatchila, it's not done. A example again, if you cooked spaghetti for a supper with meatballs, don't add cheese, even though the lakshin is still strictly parava. If he did it, it's mutter. Manufacturing items, ice cream, parva ice cream, or parva anything, if it's made on fleishig equipment, even any ben yoyim, it has to be labeled as that, because you're not supposed to make it al das to sell it as a parva food when it's not really parva. You boiled eggs in a milachik pot, you can't add that to the cholent, because that's not banat teira, and putting it to fleishig would be a problem, but you did it, it's okay. A main case where there's more mutter is an eine ben yoyim. You cooked the eggs in a milachik pot that wasn't used within 24 hours. So then you shouldn't do that to add to the cholent. But if you did it, you're allowed to add it to the cholent, because that's an eine ben yoyim that goes down a notch. And once you did it, it's mutter to add. A pizza crust is considered a tafshil shelchal, not just a nat bar nat. What's deep fried in oil that was used for fleishik has to be treated as fleishiks. We assume the oil becomes fleishiks, not entirely not that the person becomes fleishiks, but definitely the oil becomes fleishiks. A person wants to warm hot challah to make it hot, so you put it either in an aluminum pan or on aluminum foil, cut piece of aluminum foil, but putting it directly onto a cooking cholent might make at least the crust a fleishiks regarding halacha is not to eat milchiks with the same challah, and certainly not to cook milchik with the same challah. Immersing a milchik, a bottle, for example, a closed bottle, into an urn might make the urn milchiks, because that's the blias goes into the wall and into the water. Pour a hot soup that was made in a fleishik pot into a milchik bowl. That we don't do it al daskein, but you made a parva soup in a fleishik bowl. You could pour it in a fleishik pot. You could pour it right into a milchik bowl. That's a little less than a nat bar nat. You fried latkes, parva latkes, in a parva frying pan, and then you put it onto a fleishik plate or bowl or serving bowl. You could take add milchiks lachatchila, because that's even less than a typical nat bar nat. Roasted or fried food is not a het of nat bar nat, according to the Marshal. If you fried or roasted an eggplant, you can't add cheese to that, because that's more than a nat bar nat. That's more of a problem than a nat bar nat. A eine ben yoyme with a nat bar nat, of course, is a much bigger heta. Something that's sold or is looked at as cheskas fleishiks, don't add cheese, that's for sure, but you're allowed to have that and milchiks afterwards, because you don't have to wait 6 hours for that. Something that might have a little residue that's bottle, you could treat it like regular nat bar nat, don't add cheese to it, but you could have it and have milchiks afterwards. I forgot to mention not to use a fleishik knife to cut cake that's going to be used with coffee, even though there's no nat bar nat, there's no cooking and it's cold, but there's a problem with the knife might have some fleishik residue, you just cut a piece of meat with it. So unless it was washed very, very well, we try to avoid mixing a knife cutting a knife using a knife to cut a fleishiga knife to cut a parve cake, that's going to be eaten with milchiks. Also, I should have mentioned challah on a Shabbos table could become fleishiks, even though it's baked parve. If you left it on the table and people are eating with it, the Mechaber says in Pei Tes, based on a Yerushalmi, that we have to treat the challah as fleishiks. Now that's not because of not barnat, that's because you might have touched it, or the mamoshis of fleishiks. So the eighth is to keep a challah tray, a bread basket in the center, and whoever touches that will take it out and not put it back, and that challah remains parva. Challah that's baked in a fleishiga oven that's clean is still considered parva, even though the oven is fleishiks. A parva food with fleishik, they're both uncovered, we treat the parva as fleishiks, and if it's wrapped, it retains its status as parva.